Today I'm joined by Michelle Ramage from the city of New Plymouth in New Zealand. She is one of the women that is featured in our Disruptive City Women book. Michelle has a huge passion to disrupt homelessness over her city. So welcome, Michelle.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you. You're freezing because you're in New Zealand and it's always cold, but that's okay, it's winter. But you're a part of our Disruptive City Women book, and the passion that you have to disrupt is particularly around the area of homelessness. And I'm just going to read a bit of your bio from the book, and then we want to ask you some questions around that. But Michelle was born in Wellington and raised in Taranaki, New Zealand. For as long as she can remember, she has always had a burden for the broken and hurting women and children in her city. In 2014, she saw a significant spike in the numbers of families in Taranaki living in their cars, in garages, in overcrowded, uninsulated, damp houses, or sleeping on the streets. The majority of these families had children with severe health and respiratory issues. They had low incomes, high debt, and were no longer able to meet the credit check requirements to obtain private rentals. In some cases, families were paying over 60% of their weekly income in rent. So in 2016, Michelle launched Roderick Hope Emergency Housing Trust to start to address the issues of homelessness and displaced families in her city at a grassroots level. Well done, Michelle. And you're still going and you're still alive. And that takes a lot to get going. But let's not talk too much about what you've done, because we want people to read the book. But tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in New Zealand for you.
So I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and we always had an open door policy at home. So it was a role model to me from a very young age. How to look after the needs of others. And so Mum would always cook for more than the 6 of us, Mum, Dad and my brother and 2 sisters, and anyone was welcome. And I think without realising, that made a significant impact in who I am today. And it was such a simple thing that Mum and Dad did, or a simple decision they made, but it's had a huge impact on my life. When I was 14, one of my school friends came and lived with us for a year after she was being abused at home by an extended family member. And so, again, all of us kids watched as Mum and Dad opened our house to someone. I just came home and said, hey, can my friend come and live with us? And obviously they went through the right channels and spoke to the right people, and it was all done above board. But yeah, so in terms of like my core beliefs and what I do today is really modelled on what I saw my parents do as I was growing up.
Yeah, and that's been a bit of a theme with a number of the women I've interviewed that are in our book. And so what happens in our early years does shape who we are in the future. What were your dreams as a young girl? Did you always dream that you wanted to help the homeless, or did you want to be a ballet star, or what were you dreaming back when you were 10 or 11?
My dream always was to be able to work in the community. And it's quite funny, like we all went through youth group, and then all of a sudden everyone disappeared and went to university, but I didn't go, I stayed behind. And I actually, after school, got a job working at the local courthouse. So I worked in family violence, and I had no idea what family violence was. I'd never seen Dad even raise his voice to Mum, let alone a fist or control her in any way, shape or form. And so I found myself in this position where I was issuing protection orders against violent men, and I was requesting them to go to preventing violence programs. And my I guess working for the family court made my heart for our city grow, and that's how I ended up in the role that I have today, the job I've had, which is nearly 11 years I've been in my current role, in working within our city. So my dream always, though, from a young person, was to be able to work in our local community.
Okay, yeah, so just tell us a bit about your current role and what you're doing in your city.
So my current job, I work for a kaupapa Māori frontline family violence organisation, and called Tūtama Wahine. And so Tūtama Wahine provides services to the community around family violence, men who have been respondents to protection orders, women who are victims of violence who have obtained that protection order. My role within the organisation is I'm actually an attendance officer, which in the old days would have been a truancy officer. So we're looking at the reasons why young people aren't going to school and ensuring that they get back into school. Because obviously we know that without education, we can't make any lasting changes for these families. These kids need to get an education. So that's part of my role. The other part is obviously the housing part, where we are assisting families into emergency housing. And then the other part of the role is a children's program facilitator. So when a mum takes out a protection order, the children have the opportunity to attend a educational based program which teaches them how to stay safe. So I do those programs with kids as well.
Okay, no, it's a huge role, and I know you're well known in your city, well respected, well loved, and just doing some great work there. I mean, why is our, New Zealand, it's a beautiful nation, it's small. Why is there so much family violence, would you say?
Family violence, homelessness, all of it. If you look into the history of New Zealand, you get a really quick understanding of what Māori people went through in New Zealand with the confiscation of land and colonisation that happened. And I think, especially in our area, we can't expect these kinds of atrocities to happen in our history and there not be a flow-on effect through to the current generation. There's a spiritual and a physical impact that happens, and we're still feeling the spiritual and physical impacts of the confiscations today more than ever. And so, I mean, in terms of homelessness, we, even just over the lockdown with COVID-19, we had, I mean, our city's not even big. Like, I think our province is just over 120,000 people. We had well over 100 families had to be placed into motels because there was nowhere for them to live because of circumstances that arose over the lockdown. We only have 5 emergency houses. We could have 50 and it still wouldn't be enough. But I guess probably the main issue for in terms of housing is it's unaffordable now. We don't have enough state housing for people to pay income-based rent, and so yeah, like I said like you said in the bio, families are paying up to 60% of their income in rent, and it's just unaffordable. The other thing I think that's really important to note is a lot of people will say to us, "Oh, do you think it's because drugs and alcohol that these people have become homeless?" And my first response is always, no, it's not. 99% of the people that come through our doors have no role models. They were never role modeled how to live. They were never role modeled how to pay their bills on time. They were never role modeled how to parent or how to keep on top of washing or make simple, nutritious meals for their family. And so a lot of the issues that we are coming up against are because they simply do not have the knowledge or the skills that they need to be able to be successful in their life and make good decisions for their children. And it's not because they don't love them, they love them dearly. And so we put things in place so that some of these issues can be addressed.
So, Michelle, I know there's some amazing churches in New Plymouth and great pastors, and there's a real groundswell, particularly among the women, beginning to gather and look at how do we address some of these issues. What are you seeing from your end?
Yeah, what I really love about the momentum that's building with the churches within our city is each church is coming on board with what's already in place. So if the church down the road is doing one program and we think it is as adding value, then we add value to that program. We don't reinvent the wheel. And so it's just been fantastic, the support networks and the communication that is just starting to unravel and starting to really make a significant difference. So for instance, at Christmas time, we run a program and a project called Operation Blue Santa. Now there were about 8 or 10 different churches in our city who invested into that project, which is an opportunity for the police to visit families who are likely to have a family violence call out over the Christmas break with a $100 food parcel. And so they do safety checks to ensure that family is safe while social services are closed for the holidays. And so churches get in behind that project and make that happen because they want to be part of being the solution. And obviously we want to be part of being the solution for where they're investing as well. So it's powerful. It's so powerful. And it's incredible to see the impact that it's having on our local community.
Yeah, no, it's vital that we work together if we're going to see any end of these issues in our cities. Are there days when you just feel totally overwhelmed or hopeless?
Yeah. Yeah, there are. But I think when you know deep down that you're called to this, you know that you'll be carried through this. And so there are some hard days. There's some ugly conversations that have to take place. Very, very ugly. But in all of it, our goal is that these families find their feet again. We want them to be active members of society again. We want them to know that in spite of their wounds, in spite of their education, in spite of their position in society, there's always hope for them. There's always hope for their children, and we're committed to stand with them and walk through it.
Yeah, no, that's it's vital to always carry that seed of hope. Can you end our interview with just telling us a story of a family that you have been able to help?
So one of the stories that impacted me really deeply right at the very beginning was a family that we actually provided some beds to. And so we got mum into a position where she was able to hold on to her house, but her children didn't have beds. Her son was sleeping on a broken fold-out couch held up by stereo speakers, and her daughter was waking up with cuts all over her body every morning because the springs in her mattress were poking through her bed and were cutting her. And so we were able to drop off a bed, bedding, pillows, a duvet for her son and for her daughter. She was not in a position financially to be able to rectify the issue. And such a simple thing for us to do, but made such a massive impact on that family and made such a massive impact on us. There were the sense of gratitude and the sense of just hope, I guess, that it gave to them, that people actually in their community truly cared enough to drop off a bed for each of her children. Just there was snot and tears for days. She just cried and cried and cried. And the little girl came out and she said, I can't believe that this is for me. I have hoped for this for so long that somehow I might be able to get a bed that doesn't cut me every day. And we actually could see physically the cuts on her from what the springs had done. And when we viewed the bed, I don't know if you've ever seen a spring come out of a mattress, but they're nasty. And it just something so simple that said, we love you and we value you and we value your children, made such a lasting impact to her and to her kids. But the impact on us was, I'll never ever forget it as long as I live.
And obviously, not every story is like that, and not everyone you help loves you. Sometimes the people we help the most turn around and hurt us the most too, but you keep going, don't you? No matter what. Yep. And I know you've
in spite of everything.
I know you've been through some huge challenges, which we don't even have time to talk about, but just want to say thank you for being a Disruptive City Women, for not just looking at the issues and praying them away, but actually entering into the mess and the pain, and also rallying the wider church into that. It takes a leader to, wave a flag and say, we've got to get involved. You mentioned that you need 50 homes. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, one home at a time. Yeah, we're in the process we're in discussions at the moment to open house number 6, hopefully by the end of the year. My hope was that we would be able to do house number 7 as well this year, but just yeah, let's get number 6 done, and then we'll talk about number 7. So,
Yeah, let's
so
get out of lockdown. Will be good too. No, well, thank you, Michelle. I want to encourage you to get a hold of the Disruptive City Women book and to not only read Michelle's story, but all the other stories. Let's be a part of women who look at the darkness, the areas of injustice, oppression, and needs in our city and disrupt them with light.